Hey guys, it's Britt, and I wanted to have a discussion, and I'm going to keep it as unbiased as possible because um, the book that I'm going to use as an example here is one that I really like, yet it was very quote unquote controversial here on BookTube, and we're talking about The Black Witch by Laurie Forrest. And um based off of the Amazon reviews, it's more or less getting pretty um it's been praised by many people as opposed to Goodreads. And most of the people on Goodreads are on BookTube, and so they are kind of aware of the for lack of a better word, the drama that is surrounding this book. And that makes me wonder, do our inherent biases affect how we feel about a book? Because as soon as people start screaming about a book, I instantly want to read it. Like, if there's drama behind it, I want to read it. I want to know, is it actually happening? Is it what everybody is saying that it is? And that's exactly what I did when I read The Black Witch. And um, while the criticism is valid, I'm not trying to invalidate anybody's opinions. Everybody has a right to an opinion, but I'm wondering if people had not made such a big deal, if this would be labeled a quote unquote problematic book. And I don't think it would be if people hadn't uh, if people hadn't gone in knowing the information that that people knew when they read The Black Witch. And Maddie over on Twitter, she said that she really didn't like this book, and that's okay. That's totally fine. We all have different opinions, and books affect everybody personally. Books are a very personal thing. A review is a very personal thing. While reviews should always be objective in some way, our opinions, whether we like to or not, whether we do it intentionally or not, are going to affect how we feel about the book. And a lot of people here on BookTube aren't professional reviewers. They're just not. They're readers, and they like what they like, and they like what they don't like, and that's fine. But had something like, let's say, The Black Witch or Carve the Mark by Veronica Roth, had that not been scrutinized to the point where people were pushing for the book to not be publicized, would that affect people's feelings? Because they're going into books like The Black Witch with claims that there's racism, and it's what other claims, there's homophobia. It's bad. It's taking us back 40 years, 200 years, whatever. um I think a lot of the controversy is a bit unfair because a lot of the people reviewing this book on Goodreads have not actually read the book, and a lot of the quotes being posted to represent the racism is being taken out of context and made to look worse than it actually is. And I don't think that's fair to Laurie Forrest. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have negative opinions of this book, because, like I said, everything is subjective. An opinion is subjective. While, yes, there is racism in the book. That's undisputable. There is. There's a lot of racism in this book. But there's also a lot of learning and overcoming racism and initial biases. And the one thing that I really see nobody talking about in regards to the Black Witch is the main character didn't go in with racist racist opinions. She basically, essentially, became a racist because the people she was working with were racist against her first. Now, two wrongs don't make a right. Definitely not. Racism is terrible. I've experienced racism. I'm sure you guys have experienced racism to some degree. But how do I put this? I don't know how to say this without people going to jump down my throat, and that's not my intention at all, because I don't want people to jump down my throat here. I'm trying to make a discussion video, but her racist feelings were essentially beaten into her. And while she may have had some degree of racism before she arrived at the magical school, they definitely weren't as extreme as when after she got beat by the people that she was working with. And like I said, two wrongs don't make a right. But nobody's talking about the other side either. And in my opinion, that's unfair. And for people taking things out of context and making them worse than they actually are you really helping matters by doing this? By making things look worse than they are? I don't think so. And I really hope that the series gets to continue, because I found this book enjoyable. And you can take that as you will. You can say that I'm a problem for liking and endorsing this book. You can say that I'm a bigot, or you can throw a lot of different words at me. But at the end of the day, I know me. And you might only know me through the course of this video. But I know that books are books. Books are fiction. They can have real life elements in them. But I'm going to use a really really, really extreme example here, okay? I really love Game of Thrones, if you couldn't tell, but a lot of people take characters' opinions and make the assumption that that is the opinion of the author, or that is something that the author wants to do or promote. Now, I don't think George R. R. Martin would push small children out of windows and crippling them for life. I also don't think that George R. R. Martin would go around raping women or chopping people's genitalia off just for shits and giggles. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy. So if George R. R. Martin can write these things and not be a terrible person, why can't authors like Laurie Forrest write books with racism in them? And racism is terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. But I think we have a bias against this book, and I think that that impacts how we feel about the book in one way or another. And I don't think that this book was ever really given a fair chance because of all the negative attention that it was receiving on BookTube before it even came out. A review popped up from an ARC, and that was one person's opinion, which they are completely entitled to. But people took that review and then started using it and saying, well, I haven't read the book, but I'm not going to read the book, but they leave a review anyway, based off of another person's review. What? Why? I mean, you can make the choice to not read the book. That's fine. But don't go talking about things that you don't know, because you're not getting the full context. That's not fair. And that's certainly not fair to Laurie Forrest, who is, I believe, new to the game. Yes, she wrote about racism. Was that the best choice for her first book? Probably not. But that doesn't mean that she doesn't have the right to write it, or that her book should be pulled because it has racist elements in it. And I know people are very sensitive to racism, and there are reasons for that because of the world that we live in. But hey, these are just my thoughts. You can do with them as you will. And until next time, guys, I love you. And I will see you in the next video, hopefully. Hopefully, please don't hate me. Alright, I love you guys.